Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Asuka here, bringing to you another video for Conqueror's Blade, published by Porus Interactive. This is going to be the update log for May 8th. APAC is going to have their May 8th maintenance from 14 to 1700 hours, UTC plus 8. EU AMS is going to get theirs at 7 to 1000 hours, UTC plus 1. The maintenance is expected to last 3 hours. After the maintenance, we will distribute bronze coin times 8,300 honors and 15 unit medals as compensation. We have new items available for a limited time in the honor store. So there's going to be challenge vouchers for the cudgel monks, feathered crossbowmen, outriders, and whooshing pikemen. Priced at 5,000 honor, purchase limit of 10 for each of those. Available time is from May 8th after maintenance to June 19th, sorry. So a good while. Six whole weeks. I think this will probably be just before the new season starts. Um, New system adjustment, optimize feedback when purchasing items, reducing redundant operations, streamline system prompt for quest submission when requirements are met, optimize the description of shield and spear shield defense when a block is successful. The hero cannot be concussed, pushed back, knocked down, or knocked back. That is. That's. Okay. It's a bit weird if they optimize the description like that because it's not true, first of all. Um, it, let me explain. If, as far as I know, if the attack itself is blockable, normally any extra effects are negated. They are not applied, basically. If the attack is blocked, shield and spear, shield defense in this particular scenario, or as we understand it, is basically control immunity from the front while blocking. This is, sorry, yeah. While in defensive stance, any attack, any effect that hits them from the front is essentially ignored. They're basically CC immune. Um, I say basically. There are caveats to this, which is really weird because the exact restriction, it can be a little bit finicky. So there's a lot of like unblockable attacks that you get hit by and they won't affect you. But if you get hit by like, let's say the chain darts prey trap, you will be concussed. Um, Sometimes when you're attacking with the basic attack, apparently that will allow things to crowd control you, and especially when you're sidestepping, um, that will cause like that will definitely you'll definitely get knocked out of sidestepping. Like it's a bit finicky. It's a bit finicky. Or maybe not. Like in my experience, it's really finicky because like I've been knocked I've been CC'd when I feel like I shouldn't be, but at the same time, it's just like it's very powerful. It's very powerful in a lot of cases. But if you're standing still and you're in defensive stance, so you're blocking, and you get hit with an attack that goes through block, you will not be controlled for the most part. There are exceptions, but that's generally that's generally what shield defense is supposed to be or supposed to describe. But the description here kind of twists it kind of twists this a little bit. And it's it's concerning because it could be two things. It's either a nerf or straight up lying, or well, I mean, I say two things, but like I said straight up lying, but like yeah, that doesn't really count. They could be mistaken, or they didn't translate it properly. But basically, it could be a nerf where blocking, where where shield and spears block is normal now, so they won't essentially be able to ignore CC from unblockables. The other thing is that it could mean that if they block an attack, they'll be CC immune. I don't know if it has a duration, but it feels like it could. I mean, like I'm at this point, I am not in the mood to like think that it's not going to happen, but I feel like I kind of want to say that if something like that does happen, I'm going to be mad, but I'm gonna hope that doesn't happen. Um, Optimize the description of shield and spear Spartan kicks. Added the following control removal, removes daze, knockdown, and concussed effects upon using the skill. We've already known that. It's just the description hasn't been updated, so that's very accurate. And there's no, yeah, like there's no inconsistency with the new description or I mean, yeah, with the added additionals. So that's cool. The only thing is that sometimes don't they don't what the hell? Pushed back and knocked back. Yeah, this is a translation issue right here anyway. Because this should be translated as knockback. This should be translated as throw. But the weird thing is that Spartan's kick is translated as knockback as well, when technically it should be well, I'm not even sure what it should be because it's basically um a souped up throw. Basically, it's a souped up throw. It's stronger than a regular throw. Um, but yeah, like minor mistakes, and definitely like whoever's writing this, well, not whoever's writing this, but whoever is telling, describing, ugh, whoever's describing these things, like I feel like they're maliciously misleading us or don't understand the game in a way to actually explain it properly, and it's really pissing me off. Unit and unit adjustments. So Spartan Chosen. The shared team damage now updates once per second. Lethal damage will be applied immediately. This is very strange. Now, there's two things that can be very confusing. Spartan Chosen's the share team damage now updates once per second. So that could mean the damage that is shared is updated per second. So that all of the damage dealt to the unit is then applied in one update every second. This could have some logistical ramification. For instance, especially at the start, where Spartan Chosen will take a little bit of damage, they'll heal. That's going to be a little bit behind. So what I mean is you're going to have take a little bit of damage, wait 1 second for your health bar to update, and then you start healing. So you'll probably lose out however many attacks you can do within that 1 second of being at full health, going down, and this could repeatedly happen as you heal. Have to wait 1 second for the damage to come in. But the other thing is the other scary part. Lethal damage will be applied immediately. So that means if you deal the entire health pool of a Spartan Chosen unit, you could kill them outright within a second. I'm not sure how feasible that is. A second not particularly long, and there's no unit, as far as I understand it, that could kill a Spartan Chosen instantly or within 1 second from the front. Not even Lion's Roar. I mean, maybe point blank top line Lion's Roar has enough damage to instantly one shot Spartan Chosen. But let's put it down to that there is very few units that would even come close to dealing the entire health pool of Spartan Chosen within 1 second. So it's I don't know how to feel about this change. It theoretically doesn't solve anything for Spartan Chosen. It just makes very minor logistical issues, and they are limitations to the system and the servers. So I think what was probably happening was that there were so many Spartan Chosens on the field that like the share team damage update on every instant was causing a backlog for the server. So there was probably just the server like the server load was probably way too crazy while there was a lot of Spartan chosen on the field. Is my guess is why they've done this. Because this unit adjustment kind of thing doesn't feel like a balance change, but it has some implications. So yeah, that's that. Now, most of this hasn't changed. If you've watched my PTR update, Um, we got a whole bunch of things. I'm gonna go read through these, and I'm gonna pin pinpoint a couple of the changes if I find any. But essentially, the introduction here is essentially the same. Low units have long struggled to perform effectively on high star battlefields, significantly limiting both strategic diversity and tactical depth. With this round of mastery and leadership adjustments, we aim to take the first step towards expanding viable units choices across the battlefield. Our plan begins with 2-star and 3-star units. For each of these lower star units, we try to provide a scenario where their strength can be maximized. When warlords deploy them strategically in the right situations, they will reap significant rewards, turning the tide and achieving victory against stronger foes. Currently, low star units faces two major issues. First, many of them suffer from outdated mechanics and underwhelming base stats. We will address this through targeted balance and mastery adjustments guided by real-time battlefield performance data. This should help most low-star units meet the strength threshold of high-star battles. Second, under the influence of leadership reduction doctrines, the leadership cost efficiency of 3-star units is only about 50% that of some 4 or 5-star units. We are actively analyzing data to redefine the leadership costs of low star units, ensuring that when used strategically, they can trade favorably against higher cost enemy units. Looking ahead, we will also rework particularly underperforming masteries and adjust weaker 4 and 5-star units, ensuring every point of leadership spent delivers its intended value. All right. If you've watched my PTR video, you'll find that I find a few of these things really concerning and just like it gives the wrong impression. This second point here, under the influence of leadership reduction doctrines, I'm not exactly sure how they're measuring this, but the leadership reduction doctrine is a percentage based doctrine. It shouldn't have any bearing on the leadership cost efficiency or like the leadership cost efficiency shouldn't change if the leadership doctrine is applied to both the 3-star and the 4 or 5-star because the ratio remains the same. The the ratio would stay the same regardless. The only difference you would see is in the total amount, which should be again reduced by the percentage, which is 16% of the leadership reduction doctrine. So again, I feel like there's been a misinterpretation or a deliberate I it definitely feels like they're misunderstanding how they're calculating this and don't understand the redundancy. But it is just concerning that they did include this clause here, which again, I don't particularly like balancing through doctrines because doctrines are a RNG based resource that isn't applicable in all scenarios. And if you're one of those veterans that have tons of resources and extra doctrines, the likelihood that you were able to fully doctrine out every single unit with tier 5 or optimal doctrines is extraordinarily low still. That being said, the other part is their intent to redefine the leadership cost. I want everyone to know that leadership how I see it, needs to be standardized to match how tiers is set up. The reason being is because if you do, if you standardize the leadership costs of units, you get rid of inherent biases of cost between similar cost units. This allows for a very good and easy, how to say, balance as you as you try to have everyone within a certain range. Problem with different cost leadership, especially when we're going with tiers, is that units aren't entirely calc the calculations for units and their performance is wildly varied in real scenarios because of a lot of factors. But to simply put, it's not it's not it's not easy to adjust units based on leadership because of the structure of units. You have tier 3 units. Well, I mean, it kind of goes into the leadership cost of efficiency that they described earlier. And for the most part, tier 4 and 5 have normally been crazy efficient. And the crazy part here is like the tier 5, the crazy part is the implication of like leadership cost efficiency. It it means, oh man, now I'm getting confused. I'm confusing myself. When the lead like the leadership cost of units should be standardized because you don't you shouldn't simply have differing leadership costs for units, especially since you'll end up in an issue where you will just use the strongest unit. And the cost efficiency for leadership actually gets higher the more leadership you use. Be, be, it's purely because of it's purely because of how strong a unit that costs more leadership should be stronger than everything else. And the issue with that is if you have units being cost effective against higher leadership units, you actually decrease the margin of strength that a tier 5 should have compared to the lower leadership units. So you get a diminishing leadership cost effectiveness when it should technically be linear, but like it doesn't it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So it's hard to explain. I've got a lot of thoughts, and I don't want to keep you guys here forever just trying to say something that I can't explain. So I'm just going to say I think they should standard leadership for each of the tiers, and if units need to go up or down tiers, fine, but balance based on tiers, based on Standard leadership. Give standard leadership. Balance based on tier. That way, your tiers are balanced and you don't have to worry about cross tier balance because higher tiers being stronger than lower tiers is literally normal. If it overperforms, but it like what's the margin that could be defined and redefined. You can't fix balance by you can't you can. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. You can do it this way. I just think it's more of a hassle doing it this way, and it just feeds into power creep. That being said, the leadership costs of units over time have decreased massively. We have tier 5 units now costing the upper tier of tier 4 units of of past. The highest cost tier 4 unit was 270, and I believe it was the Imperial Arquebusiers and one other unit, maybe a cavalry. I can't remember properly. The highest cost tier 3 unit, pretty sure it was 200, and that was the Demez Arquebusiers. And for tier 5, I believe the highest cost was 145, roundabout. Strangely enough, the tier 1 units cost a lot. I think the most expensive one was 110. So it's it's really appalling to me that we have 700 base leadership, possibly of up to 800, and we're playing around with units that literally cost nothing at this point. No one's going to use the lower tier units. No one's going to want to use 10 lower tier units. We barely want to use 5 tier 3s during blue tier locks. It's such a slog to kind of use a unit burnout just repeatedly. Sometimes I just want to fight for a really long period of time, but not actually kill anything. But that's me. Um, Gotta kind of rush through this. Already read through this before on my PCR one, but Corteliers, Node 1, piercing penetration 100, piercing damage plus 50, piercing penetration plus 100, piercing damage plus 50, charge speed plus 20% increase, damage increase in all stages plus 10%. I do believe that is a stage. I believe that refers to the charger or the long distance charge unit trait. So instead of 20%, they get 30%, and that is kind of consistent with kind of how I with that is consistent with how I've calculated the total damage, but um, roughly it's a total amount of about 25% increase from all of these effects from what I've gathered from what I've gathered with my testing. Um, Unit headcount plus 1, damage to infantry unit plus 300 at the end of the charge. At the end of a charge, and when an attack command is issued during a charge, the unit unleashes a forward armor breaking impact that deals 200% damage. If blocked, it puts the enemy into a block broken state. This is probably, I hope they fix it, but this is probably still bugged. Issuing an attack command actually doesn't do or doesn't allow them to do the empowered attack. Xing them doesn't allow them to do the empowered attack. You must let the so far, as far as I understand, you must let the charge naturally end in order to get this empowered attack. Um, it's a its application is basically zero. You're never going to use it realistically unless you just let the unit go and just and let it um, and let it kind of react or let it um, do its thing without any input kind of thing, just kind of like a charge throwaway. I highly disagree with any of these bonuses that just slaps on precise type bonuses. 300 damage against infantry units. Like Cordeliers don't. Any cavalry don't need more damage against infantry. It's stupid how cavalry continuously gets more and more damage against infantry, especially once they're really, 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 really good against infantry. So it's Cordeliers might be weak because again they're getting outcompeted by Iron Cap scouts, which are literally just faster and can charge perpetually. Or it's much harder to stop the Iron Cap scouts because they restart their charge during Dominate the World and or Rampage. It's called Rampage. It used to be called Dominate the World for the Frontier side. Um, Kuggle Monks plus 420 health, 80 damage, 450 health, 80 damage. Each attack increases blunt damage by 5%, stacking up to 10 times head count plus 2, head count plus 2. Attack will deal at least 30% to units. This node is crazy strong, especially against defensive type units that have really, really high defenses. Um, the head count is probably the most important thing about the Cog, the Cudgel monks. To put it simply, um, this is this increases the head count by like 20%, but you can imagine that this essentially increases the combat power of the Kago monks by almost 50%, I think. I think that's how I calculated it. And that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy strong. Um, I'm kind of sad that they didn't take my suggestion that of swapping or making it a 10% at 5 stacks, but honestly, like the Kago monks are going to be so strong that it's really difficult to suggest any buffs to the Kago monks at this point. So I I still I, I still would have changed that because I don't like these long stackings because it's just not functional with the current state of the game. The game just wait is too long to stack 10 times or to wait to stack 10 times and stuff. Wuxing Pikeman. Movement speed plus 10%, piercing damage plus 100, movement speed plus 10%, piercing damage plus 100, fiery blast attack range and damage increased by 20%, easier to ignite enemies, damage to infantry units plus 300, damage to shield units plus 400. This actually does apply to buckler units. This does not only apply to tower shield units. It is shield units, so it includes buckler units. Um, Attack will deal at least 50% damage to units. This is crazy, and I don't like it, but be be warned, the Wuxing Pikemen have extraordinarily powerful cost of like the cost like if Kuggle Monk's like combat capabilities increase dramatically, the Wuxing Pikemen um minimum threshold is stupidly high. I mean, stupidly high. There is definitely a lot of units that rely on super high defenses that just get trashed by the Wuxing Pikemen, literally because they deal 50%. And these flat damage increases just makes it's it's a lot of things, but the Wuxing Pikemen are going to be scary. The only things that the only things that wouldn't really change against the Wuxing Pikemen are units that rely on high health and have low armor or damage reduction. But I am furious that they have gone ahead and have these because it's going to create more issues in the future, and particularly when fighting against something like Iron Reapers, it's a very sad reality that the Wushin Pikemen, they're going to be a menace. You should essentially avoid, like, the stupid thing is that you're going to end up avoiding the Kungul monks or the Wushin pikemen if you use hyper defensive units, and that's really, really stupid. It's really stupid to me. So I'm quite insulted that that went through. I'm concerned that no one else thought that this was a problem, and I'm really annoyed that the performance of these two didn't speak for themselves. Feather crossbowmen, speed, movement speed plus 10%, piercing damage plus 70, movement speed plus 10%, piercing damage plus 70, sudden storm cooldown minus 6 seconds, damage to polearm units plus 400, damage to cavalry units plus 400. Each arrow during sudden storm deals an additional 150 block break damage. The block break is actually not much. Um, the Impale Doctrine is still probably going to be your best friend here, and I really wish that they made it so that it was block break for both the sword and the arrow, but again, no one's going to actually use them in the sword mode, and it's hilarious that it seems like it's by design, and the feather crossbowmen are really strong in the first place, so um, this is not a strong mastery, but it's still significant, especially if you're facing off against these two types of units. But the block break's not very important. Um, Everything else is pretty good for the most parts. This should say Outriders. I don't know why that word is here, but yeah. Ammo plus 15%, piercing damage plus 60, ammo plus 15%, piercing damage plus 60. When throwing javelins at enemies, there is 33% chance of throwing an incendiary javelin. This incendiary javelin does explode. It's annoying. Is this a game changer? No. Um, Throughout my testing, the Outriders actually had a much lower performance than I was expecting. Um, they they got power creeped. They got power creeped to extremely. Um, their attacks only deal roughly 1800 damage after mastery. And that's not a lot, by the way. That's not a lot. Even for tier 3, 1800 damage is not a lot. Damage to tower shield units plus 500. Damage to cavalry units plus 400. Killing an enemy restores 2 ammo. Eh, again, like, you spend more ammo to kill a unit, so you will never be able to have a perpetual amount of ammo. Um, is that a good thing? Kind of. You still have an attrition, but Outriders has a primary method of restoring their ammo anyway, which again, like, I don't understand why they try to supplement it with a mastery when the unit is already kind of complete. Design itself was so ahead of its time and so overloaded for its time that these things just seem kind of meaningless. And realistically, it should have just got a stat increase. Personally, I feel like this mastery is a waste. Incendiary arrows. Piercing damage plus 60. Flaming arrows cooldown -2. Piercing damage plus 60. Flaming arrows cooldown -2. Flaming arrow is more likely to ignite fire resistant target on hit it ignites enemies within a 1 meter radius. Ammo consumption for flaming arrows is increased by 50%. Flaming arrow burning damage plus 100. Flaming arrows burning duration plus 1 second. Flaming arrow disables cavalry movement for 1 second when it hits a cavalry unit. I actually did not end up testing this, and I'm really surprised that I didn't get to see anyone else show examples, but I'm not exactly sure how this is going to interact, but it will be interesting to see how well incendiary archers are able to counter cavalry. The 50% the 50% increased ammo consumption makes these archers completely. It's basically it's a two volley kind of thing. If you don't have any ammo increases, you can only use the with their natural attack speed, you can only use the flaming arrow twice, and that's not really great, considering that against higher tier units, the flaming arrows pretty much do nothing. If you're fire resistant, the flaming arrows will the burning damage is not actually that high. The arrow initial damage deals probably more damage than the entirety of the fire damage once if you have fire resistance, because fire resistance is like 20%. I think Pillar and Flames it's 50%, but in lar in, um, for the most parts, I don't feel like incendiary archer is going to be an issue unless we're talking about super dense situations. So the best, biggest problem you'll probably see with incendiary archers is if people are using um, units who are not fire resistance. That's going to be these guys are going to be basically hell. um, so it's a bit like hit or miss with incendiary archers. They're going to play more like a special than anything. You're going to be going to the resupply a lot, and the 1 meter radius is actually really small, really small. I think dispersed formation can avoid most of the overlap. I think any formation denser than disperse will probably see problems, but um, we're gonna have to collect battle. Like this is kind of a thing where it's going to we're gonna have to wait until battlefield data comes in, because testing on the PTR just doesn't replicate the actual scenarios that we will see, which is kind of sad as well. Imperial Arquebusiers, probably the most, probably the only one that has changed, and hilariously, I feel like they could have gone harder still. So, Demez Arquebusiers, piercing damage plus 50, like you literally could have put 300 and it would plus 300 would have been barely anything. They have base 3000. 50 is gonna it's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. Fire rate plus 12%, piercing damage plus 50, fire rate plus 12%. The 12%, I'll tell you right now, is nothing. Nothing. They have a point 0.2. It takes 5 seconds for them to shoot. An extra, what, 24% fire rate? And if this stacks on the 12% fire rate they get through mastery, like at the height, we're gonna see a shot every 4 seconds. That's crazy slow still. So base wise, they're trash. Learns skill suppressing fire, maximizes reload speed, unleashes 7 volleys towards the target direction within 12 seconds. Absolutely bonkers, crazy strong. That's actually really strong. 7 volleys within 12 seconds. That's um, that is slightly faster than a shot every 2 seconds. Like that's really fast, by the way. Um, not as surprisingly not as fast as like, well, maybe it is. Hang on, just give me 2 seconds. I do have a TLDR with a couple of these things, so let's just woo. Sorry about that. Let's see. Tertials almost once every 2 seconds. Probably. I haven't updated that actually. Alan controls the thing anyway, so that doesn't matter. Where Creek Drive was clear. So it is fast. It is fast. So yeah, suppressing fire is going to be crazy. Like from the 4 shots in 12 seconds. I think it was. I think the reload speed was 2.8, and they shot 4 times, I believe. To 7 within 12 seconds. Crazy, crazy difference. But I mean, I don't know how to feel about that. Like it's it's really it's honestly, I think the Mesopolis, I mean, Aquazias are going to see some action. Honestly, that's there's no doubt about it. Um, the damage output, they might have overdone it. They might have overdone it. For their costs, especially. But anyway, finally, leadership adjustment. I won't read out all of them, but if you want to pause, freeze frame, whatever, and read it for yourself, I think I think for the most part, you're going to see a lot of tier 3 units for the next few days at least. If I was to say anything, obviously the mastery, the units that got mastery will definitely probably see much more play than any of the other tier 3s. Basically, anything that hasn't been touched won't see the light of day. A lot of these tier 3s are basically just too weak. Even with the leadership reduction, they're still too weak. Like Demez Obelisk, crazy weak. I think they're weaker by default than Demez Aquazias, which is hilarious. Um, and again, like the leadership also makes no sense because it feels like they've done it in such a way where they didn't do it off performance but off selection, or not selection, but like it feels like they just threw out these leadership adjustments, and I can't really pinpoint a I can't really pinpoint like a good like a good um balanced reason to have all of these leadership adjustments when I read out the entirety. Like two of my one of my pet peeves is like Vanguard Archers at 115, 155, and Prefecture Archers at 150. Like if anything, even with Vanguard Archers Mastery, I feel like these two units right now are matched. These two units feel matched. There's no reason to have Vanguard Archers just be slightly more expensive just because it's mastery, just because it has mastery right now, compared to Prefect Archers, who doesn't have mastery and is still top DPS when we're talking about tier 3 range. I mean, Incendiary Archers also got mastery, and it's set higher than both of those, but it's difficult. It's difficult to say. Bedivere Rangers also. These guys might be cavalry. They do no damage. Even even in even against tier 3, they don't deal enough damage to actually kill tier 3, which is hilarious. The only thing they can kill are ranged units most of the time. I've actually been hit by the Bedivere Rangers and they didn't kill my unit. And I think I was using like um what was I using? I was using one of the squishy tier 4s, I think. But still, it's I'm still very weirded out by that one. Worst of all, obviously I felt Ratia Pistoliers didn't need a leadership change at all. It should have stayed at 190. Ratia Pistoliers are amazingly strong. And do I want them to stay that way? Absolutely not. Do I like using them because they're really strong? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I I definitely think there's no there's no like they changed these numbers because they wanted to, not because of any underlying balance reason, I feel. The reason they give out the top, if you can believe it, you can believe it. If you can't, like, I'm in a mood where I just can't trust what they're saying. They're saying a lot of stuff and it's just not matching up with what I'm seeing. It doesn't click with me. So I might just be a hater. Finishing up the update with the bug fixes and optimization. Fix an issue where the actual movement speed of Wuxing Pikeman did not match the displayed stat. Fix an abnormal animation issue when Siphonario's pushed the siege tower. I didn't realize Siphonarios could push the siege tower, since siege tower requires more than 7 units to push one. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Fix a behavior issue with prefecture guards after learning the Mastery Node 8, where Cover Commander might malfunction. I know about the malfunction, but I'm not sure if it's the same. Most of the time I do use prefecture guards in Cover Commander mode. I mean, I do have mastered prefecture guards, so I'm not sure exactly what goes wrong when they mean after learning Mastery Node 8 here. Is this an issue that only happens after Mastery Node 8, or is this an issue with Cover Commander as a whole? But it's probably to do with how the charge functions as a standalone with Prefecture Drill, and then switching to Cover Commander mode, the charge attack causes a targeting overlap or a mistake in the in the attack algorithm where it conflicts with the Cover Commander, and it causes a, how to say, a a standby a standby a standby phase where they will charge at targets within attack range, but will not return to Cover Commander because the charge doesn't have a recall function or a reference to the Cover Commander or something like that. Fixed and inconsistent in damage coefficient between optimal snow mortar and the other mortars. I thought they fixed that already. Fixed a discrepancy in the skill display of Rutan marksman between the U interface and in battle behavior. No idea what they're referring to there. Fixed an issue where equipping legendary support doctrine on Orochi samurais would reduce the cooldown of double strike after a kill. Didn't know about that. We don't even have access to the legendary support doctrines. We do on the PTR, but I don't test doctrines, so go figure. Fix an issue where Glaive's skill turn and attack did not receive the intended 30% damage reduction during activation. Honestly, I could not tell if that was even working, and even during my test, I still couldn't tell if that was even working. So good that they fixed it. Really, really, really annoying that it took them so long. This change was like last season, I'm pretty sure. Fix a possible unlock issue with the achievement First Blood. Fix a possible unlock issue with the achievement Dragon Spear 1. Fix an issue where defending units might retreat abnormally on the Sabaton Fortress map. I actually liked how they would basically attack while retreating. So that, like, they would basically fight until they disappear, which could lead to really funny situations. Fix an issue where heroes could move slightly during the preparation phase. All key inputs will now be disabled during map loading. I actually only noticed this. I actually only noticed this in Bandit raids just recently. So yeah, not particularly sure why it actually even matters, since like the only one that would really matter is field battles, but no one plays field battles anyway. So it's good that they fix it though. It's still a quality of life thing. You don't want anyone getting an unfair head start. But regardless, that is the update log for May 8th. Do expect a lot of interesting sieges for a little while. I don't doubt that the tier. I don't doubt the Kaggle monks or the wishing pikemen might stay a little bit longer than welcomed. Um, Cortelia's probably got the Cortelia's got probably a big enough buff. I'm still wondering whether or not the actual performance from the Incendiary Archers will be as strong as people make it out to me. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue, especially against higher tier units. But against lower tier units, I can definitely see these guys, especially against units without fire resistance, these guys are going to be an absolute menace. And finally, I want to see fire suppressing fire, because this is going to be crazy, 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 crazy. I think it's not as fast as, let's say, Imperial Archer's five shots in 7 seconds, but 7 volleys in 12 seconds for a musket unit. I haven't recalculated the fire rate for tertials and the updated Kriegsrat, but if if the general if the general how to say increase is a line, this suppressing fire should put them at the same level as both tertials and Kriegsrat, and because of the higher base stat, and I'm literally telling you that these guys have higher base stats, which is really, really hilarious. For piercing damage, anyway. Um, these guys should essentially be equivalent to their higher tier counterparts while using suppressing fire. If I'm not wrong, um, good question that other testers has brought up is if suppressing fire is affected by by rate of fire increases. From what I've seen people talk, apparently suppressing fire previously on the PTR was not being affected by fire rate increases. So it's a wonder if that will change, but um, it's still fairly fast in the first place. So you could get away with just making Demez Aquasias really tanky instead. Well, not really tanky. There's a limit to how tanky you can get. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys still enjoying the game. I'm really annoyed at the developers, but what can I do? I can only give my opinion, and I hope you guys also give your feedback to the developers as much as possible. And at the end of the day, whatever game evolves from CB is a combination of many factors. We can only just wish for the best game we could possibly get. And right now, I just feel like we're not heading in that direction. We're just getting a subpar product, and that's how I feel. But other than that, my name's Asuka. Have a nice day. Bye for now.